this.
Oh, boy.
A new Politico report claiming that anti-Trump legal pundits hold off-the-record calls about Donald Trump's legal sagas. Quote, the group's gathering was not a one-time event, but in fact an installment in an exclusive weekly digital salon every Friday. They meet on Zoom to hash out the latest twists and turns in the Trump legal saga and intellectually stress test the arguments facing Trump on his journey through the American legal system, because that's their job, right? The calls include several pundits who make appearances on several major cable networks that are not this one.
Yeah, Jeffrey Toobin also on those phone calls, apparently. Joe Concha is a Fox News contributor, and he joins us now. Joe, what do you think about this? Is there a problem that you see here?
A huge problem, Carly, because Donald Trump has said repeatedly that there is a legal conspiracy against him. And to hear all these pundits who appear what feels like on an hourly basis on those other cable news networks getting together for a weekly meeting to discuss how they're going to push the narrative that Donald Trump is absolutely guilty until proven innocent. Boy, that's really telling. So the next time you watch any of these people on those networks, whether it's Bill Kristol, whether it's Father of the Year, George Conway, whether it's Lawrence Tribe or Jennifer Rubin, do know that their analysis is all rehearsed and all an effort to try to take out Donald Trump. And by the way, the fact that Jeffrey Toobin is one of the legal analysts that appears on these regular Zoom calls should be, hands down, potentially disturbing for anyone who has eyesight and is attending. Because remember, he got the shaft over at CNN for doing what he did in front of female coworkers on a Zoom call a few years ago. Yet now CNN invites him back to be their star analyst when it comes to these Trump trials. Go figure.
I caught two puns there. I'm not going to list them, but don't want you to think you put them over on me, Joe. Look, this always felt too coordinated. And when I speak with people, I'm sure you get the same thing. People always ask you, Joe, does the media coordinate their narratives? I think we now have an answer. Clearly, there is coordination here. But with all that coordination and all that strategizing, this is the best they could come up with, a case where even the prosecution, if they prove every single fact to be true, there's still no crime because the prosecution can't come up with a crime.
Yeah, Todd, I love the Jonathan Turley analogy where he says this is a Frankenstein case, right, where they took a dead misdemeanor and then bootstrapped it to a dead felony and then zapped it back to life. We still, haven't heard what the crime here is exactly. And I think many Americans, those who live in places like Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, who are struggling with food prices that continue to climb and crime out of control in American cities, and obviously the border immigration. They see these wars going on overseas. They see what's going on American campuses, and they say, boy, we got bigger fish to fry than Donald Trump allegedly paying a porn star 8 years ago as a hush money situation so he could interfere with the 2016 election? Yeah, no. I think most sane and sober people say that this is obviously a witch hunt and a political politicization of the weaponization of the justice system, guys.
Just quickly, Turley's best line on this is the prosecution's whole case is we're going to prove that Donald Trump drove 55 miles an hour. Well, yeah, you can prove that. It's not a crime. You're allowed to drive 55 miles an hour.
And it's just very interesting that people who are legal analysts on competing networks are coming together to sort of form one solid, singular opinion when the goal should be to offer the audience their own unique thoughts and different perspectives. We also want to ask you, Joe, about the latest reporting overnight on the protest taking place in Colombia. They released a new statement saying that progress is being made with these student protesters. They were apparently going to be cleared by midnight, blew past that deadline. And this is the progress that they say that they're making. These protesters have agreed to comply with the FDNY, and they also agreed that all the non-student protesters would leave Colombia. So the progress is that these protesters are going to literally comply with the actual fire department, and that people that shouldn't be on campus are going to leave? Really?
Yeah, the people that should be on campus, they're not going anywhere because they are paid for. That is organized labor in essence. So that's their job at this point. And there's no brushing aside the fact that we saw signs from some of these maniacs standing in front of Israel supporters with the sign Al-Qassam's next targets. Al-Qassam obviously is the military wing of Hamas. So that doesn't sound very peaceful to me. We heard chants of go back to Poland. Columbia obviously just went remote with some of their classes. So overall, this isn't going to get better anytime soon. This semester cannot end soon enough. And it's just amazing what's going on college campuses today. Amazing in the worst ways, guys. I can't believe what we're seeing on our screens on a daily basis.
Why even negotiate with these student protesters?
I love that point you made. We're going to reward you for doing the right thing, for following the law.
Thank you
Great
for
for you.
saying that you'll comply with the fire department. Joe, thank you for joining us.
A Fox News alert. Protests raging at Columbia University as students and outside demonstrators flood campus throughout the night, well past the midnight deadline to disperse. The university releasing a statement around 3 o'clock in the morning claiming, quote, we are making important progress with representatives of the student encampment on the West Lawn. Student protesters have committed to dismantling and removing a significant number of tents. In light of this constructive dialogue, the university will continue conversations for the next 48 hours. Meantime, House Speaker Mike Johnson set to visit the university today to meet with Jewish students. He's also expected to hold a press conference on anti-Semitism at around 3:45 this afternoon. With that, let us bring in Amy Gallatin, whose daughter goes to Barnard, which is a partner school with Columbia. Her daughter also lives right near all the chaos, and she joins me now. Amy, thanks for being here. I don't know about you. Don't you think $90,000 a year for tuition, room, board, the whole nut there should get you more than Zoom classes and constant fear?
Absolutely, yes. It's quite a nightmare. Nobody expected this. This is not a global pandemic. This is a global conflict, and it shouldn't be affecting my child's or any child's ability to just simply go to class and have a college experience.
What does your daughter tell you about what daily life is like as a Jew on this campus right now?
It's challenging, Todd. She's a proud Jew, but it is clearly very threatening. It's not that the Jews are, quote, fearful so much as they are being threatened. All of them. You have to be very careful of where you walk, where you go, and even just being able to go and choose what dining hall that you want to go to, or being able to go to the gym, or being able to go to the library, for that matter. Right now, certainly in the last week and a half, that's been very off limits, but the climate's been pretty toxic since October 7th.
How do you process this all as a parent?
A lot of sleepless nights, certainly in the last week, and very, very concerned. I mean, fortunately, I live very close to campus, but you worry. I mean, every parent worries about their kid going off to school, or their child. This is my firstborn, and you just want them to have an experience. But when you're now having to reconcile what's happening in their classrooms on top of what's happening on the campus, it's a very disturbing thing, and it's making all of the parents extremely concerned.
Amy, I know where you live. You live in West Orange, New Jersey. I grew up in Verona. Our parents are the same. You grew up in that North Jersey cauldron of wanting your kid to go to the best Ivy League school he or she can get into. And you as a parent put in countless hours trying to help your kid. And you scrimp, and you save all this money for the college. And your kid, i.e. me in this scenario, your daughter in this scenario, works her tail off, sacrifices so many parties, so many fun things to put herself in a position to go to a school like Columbia, and then this happens. She can't go to school. She's got to worry about where she goes to eat because of protests against her religion, and everything has changed in her world. How much longer can she stay there? Is she going to transfer, and do you want her to transfer?
That conversation needs to be directed by her. And I think that that's a decision any student needs to make for themselves and not really be driven by parents. But I understand a lot of parents are feeling you know what, you need to get out of there. I've spent time with her on the phone and said, you know, do you want to come home? And we kind of toss it out there. But my daughter loves where she is. This is exactly what she wanted. And you're right. She worked so hard to get there. It's exactly what she wanted from being in the city, but also that campus environment. And being in the city, and I will repeat that again, because it's part of the, quote, real world. And it's fun, of course, but no, she's, I mean, banging until the wee hours of the night, and
she's got a tough decision.
What's that?
She's got a tough decision to make because she's facing all this. It's got to be really difficult. The school said, look, obviously, we strive to support safety, student learning. That's the reason we're going hybrid. But I don't know about you. If Columbia can't really ensure two fundamental things of an education, that you get an education from in-class students, in-class professors, and the fact that you can't be safe, I don't know if that president should stay. Amy Gallatin, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and best of luck to your daughter. Oh, we got to go. I got to leave it there, Amy. We'll check back in with you. Carly, over to you.
All right, the Department of Justice is meeting with the families of the 346 people killed in two separate deadly Boeing plane crashes. The Lion Air Flight 610 in Indonesia that crashed in 2018 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 in 2019. And two of the people killed on that Ethiopian Airlines flight were brothers, Bennett and Melvin Riffle, who were traveling through Africa on vacation. Their father, Ike Riffle, will be in that meeting with the DOJ today, but first he joins me now. Ike, I cannot imagine what you've gone through these past 5 years, so we thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. Can you tell us what you know about what caused the plane crash that killed your two sons and all 157 people on board? And I mean that in two ways. What physically malfunctioned to cause the plane to go down? And you also say that there are underlying issues at Boeing that you believe contributed to this as well?
Yeah, the findings of the crash was a software system in plane called MCAS that was triggered off of one AOA sensor, which is unheard of in the industry. It had the power to fly the plane into the ground had it gone wrong, and that's exactly what it did. We think too, as at Boeing, there might have been some production issues with the plane. Also, they're having they've basically been having a lot of problems with their production lately. You've probably heard a lot of it lately.
Yeah, so. We certainly have. So after these two Boeing plane crashes, the DOJ stepped in and launched a criminal case against Boeing on behalf of you, on the families and the United States. But then you say out of nowhere, the DOJ cut a deal with Boeing so that nothing really bad would happen to the company and the executives at Boeing. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was called the Deferred Prosecution Agreement, basically a corporate probation. So essentially, they were accused of fraud, and if they were good for 3 years, that they wouldn't be, any of the executives could be tried in a criminal hearing.
And you're angry about that, right?
Oh, I'm very angry about it. We are very. It was a backroom deal made in Texas, which is something that we wondered why it went to the state of Texas. Boeing has no presence in the state of Texas. We were told as families that there was no criminal investigation into Boeing. And then out of nowhere, we read in the newspapers that about this deferred prosecution agreement.
So Ike, what do you think is really going on with Boeing?
What I think is it's basically a profit over safety. You know, it's production, safety be damned. And nothing has changed since those crashes. And that's why we're there.
So you're going to be meeting with the DOJ later today. What do you think is going to happen in that meeting?
You know, I think this is just a box checking exercise for the DOJ. We were found to be crime victims. That's why we were able to challenge this case. And really, I think it's just a dog and pony show that the DOJ wants to show the judge that they have talked to us, and basically, I don't think a lot's going to happen at it today.
Well,
It's not an evidentiary hearing or anything like that. So.
Ike, before we let you go, how are you doing? I can't imagine, like I said, losing two sons at the same time. They're in their 20s 5 years ago, and you've been fighting for answers ever since.
Yeah, we have, and and what we're really fighting for is justice, and this DOP, this peer prosecution agreement, has hid the truth from us, and we will continue to fight until we get the truth. It's been a long battle, and I think it will probably continue to be a long battle. But we will continue to fight this battle until we can find justice.
Well, a lot of questions. That's why the DOJ entered into this agreement with Boeing when they're supposed to be representing the families of the victims. So we thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your loss 5 years ago and the fight for answers. Like I said, that fight will continue today. Ike, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Carly.
You're welcome. The protests are also creating a major safety and security situation for law enforcement. And Mayor Eric Adams says the protesters flooding New York City campuses aren't just students.
People who peacefully protest for an issue, they're not throwing bottles and chairs. And so we know that we have acknowledged and saw across the country, there are people who come, have nothing to do with the issue, and they want to aggravate. We can't have outside agitators come in and be destructive to our city.
Yeah. Sergeant Joan Paratrese has 17 years in law enforcement, is the founder of Blue Lives Matter NYC, and he joins me now. Sergeant, good morning to you. You know, outside agitators or not, these people are in New York City. And when you see, gosh, this level of anger and hate towards Jewish people, the United States, Western society as a whole, you wonder, how did we get here? And also, are we barreling towards something really bad happening in New York City again?
Well, what's wrong is wrong at the end of the day, whether they're not from here or they're here. And I do agree with him 100%. They do come here. They're coordinated. They're orchestrated. You know, kids nowadays don't even know how to change a light bulb. To think overnight with these cadences and things like that, it is outside agitators. And they do try to get the misinformed kids to step up there and do dumb things like get in the cop's face and throw bottles and be destructive. We can't have it. And to be quite honest, he said it. Back in the day, I did march. I did protest, but you don't do it this way.
Right. What has the police experience been like with these protesters?
It's always disgusting. Cops go out there every single day. It's very easy to get hurt. You're getting people that try to push you and shove you and cross the line, say you do something wrong. There's cameras everywhere. It's not easy for them, but they have shown the utmost respect and restraint, and they're going to continue to do it.
Well, you mentioned the organization of this all, and the NYPD is apparently investigating who is funding these protests. People have mentioned that all the tents look the same, things like that. How difficult, how hard is it to get to the bottom of something like that?
It's not an easy process. We've put two and two together, and why not 10 months ago? Why not a year ago is this going on? It just so happens that we're coming up to an election and all hell's breaking loose. And it's not just happening here. It's orchestrated. It's happening in other states. And we're seeing them stop airports, stop traffic. You don't do this unless you're on some kind of system to be able to coordinate with one another.
Yeah, and then I wonder what would happen after the NYPD does discover if there is a group outside of a student organization that's funding something like this. Could they get in trouble?
Listen, you can't just stop somebody just because you think something. They have to do something criminal in order for a police officer to go up to them, right? So you kind of have to wait and watch, unfortunately, in these situations.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's also this that we have to talk to you about. So President Biden, he's going to Syracuse tomorrow for a campaign stop. But his trip is going to come a week after 2 police officers were killed in the line of duty in Syracuse. So listen to what's going on behind the scenes with the planning of this trip. In the words of Jeff Moran, he's the president of the Syracuse Police Benevolent Association. He says the department expressed their concern to the Biden administration regarding his trip and the quick turnaround of a Syracuse police officer being buried and an Onondaga County Sheriff's deputy being buried, and then the manpower that it would take and everything that our members have been through in the past week. Those concerns were expressed to the Biden administration, and the Biden administration elected to move forward with this visit. What do you think about this?
You know, we had Diller killed. We had the 2 Syracuse cops killed. We had the Chicago police officer just killed. I don't understand when this administration and this president is going to put politics aside and say, I have to be there for the families. I need to be there for law enforcement and for this country. What he should have done is put it to the side, shown up there, and in my personal opinion, after you pay your respects, after you show you care, then move forward. You know, I'm sick and tired of this. You know, you would think this president would come out and say, enough is enough. We have 2 options. Either, you know, you're going to jail for life for killing a police officer with no chance of parole, or we're going to have the death sentence. But he's not going to say that.
Yeah, well, I remember when the president said that he wouldn't go to East Palestine. He didn't want to do that because he didn't want to disrupt a community that was still in pieces. And now you have the police department in Syracuse saying we can't handle this right now. And yet, as of now, this trip tomorrow is still scheduled. Tell us about what you're doing later today.
Oh, super cool, Carly. We got Chaz Palminteri, the Child Reach Foundation, with his beautiful wife, Gianna. We're hosting a charity cigar event in Staten Island. Not only do we have Chaz, we got my friend Joe Piscopo. We got William DeMeo. We got America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. And we're going to raise some funds for the families of cops killed in the line of duty or diagnosed with a life-threatening disease.
A charity cigar night. That sounds like a lot of fun. And you still have tickets being sold on your website?
Yes, we do. www.bluelivesmatternyc.org. Come out, have a cigar, have a drink, have some Italian food. Experience Staten Island, but get to meet these heroes and these celebrities.
And money for a great cause. Sergeant, thank you so much for joining us, Joe Imperatrice. We appreciate you as always.
The 49 migrants that were sent to Martha's Vineyard from Florida in 2022 vis-a-vis San Antonio may be given the right to work, and at least 3 of them have already been given work visas thanks to their attorney claiming that Florida officials tricked them into boarding the planes. Now get this, they're applying for a special type of visa designated for crime victims known as a U visa. According to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, U visas are set aside for, quote, victims of certain crimes who have suffered mental or physical abuse and are helpful to law enforcement or government officials in the investigation or prosecution of criminal activity. Yeah, they're coming after you, Ron DeSantis. Alma Oheni Okpare is a legal immigrant that became a U.S. citizen in 2021, and he joins me now. Look, Alma, if a free flight to Martha's Vineyard makes me a victim, then sign me up as a victim. What's your reaction to this?
When I saw this message, this news article come through, I was flabbergasted because it seems like our country is, what America was known for, which is the rule of law, is changing right before our eyes. And as an immigrant, this is, I think, an affront to those of us who did it the right way, those of us who were willing to wait. And the fact that you have lawyers and judges who are willing to kind of manipulate the system to create this, process that is unfair to legal immigrants and basically letting illegal have their way, I don't think it orders well for our country going forward.
Yeah, back in 2022, DeSantis' office released a statement backing the decision to fly these migrants, saying, quote, immigrants have been more than willing to leave this Texas county after being abandoned, homeless, and left to fend for themselves. Florida gave them an opportunity to seek greener pastures in a sanctuary jurisdiction that offered greater resources for them, as we expected. I mean, Alma, how the heck does a flight to Martha's Vineyard cause mental or physical abuse? And also, much like the Trump case, what crime are we talking about here? Because I can't find the crime here or in the Trump case.
It's astonishing that you can somehow twist what happened into a crime. The funny thing is, of course, they went to Martha's Vineyard. This is the place where people virtue signal and claim they care. And if they care about people, why couldn't they offer them the support they needed? And to see that classified as a crime or some kind of emotional abuse is crazy. I think what is emotional abuse is people like my little sister who was admitted to a college here in the U.S., who was not allowed to get a visa, who was denied a visa after a 90-second interview. That is what causes emotional abuse, not, being flown to, Martha's Vineyard for a couple of days.
That story that you just told is sickening. So your sister, who did it the right way and is still trying to do it the right way, denied. But these individuals, under the auspices of a crime, which really hasn't been committed, because keep in mind the Texas DA in this county has not charged any crime, they get whatever they want. They get to the front of the line. It's happening over and over again, and it has to stop. Alma, we appreciate you shedding light on it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
In the soft embrace of morning light, rocky and rugged, hopefully sight, a whisper of promise, a sense so sweet, reviving energy with every heartbeat. Oh yeah, stumbling down the stairs with grace, favorite moment, cherished embrace. Each sip, a dance of enchantment, caffeine's elixir, a daily enchantment. Ooh, yeah. Coffee in the morning, my lifeline. Guiding through life's chaotic design, finding every sip of morning zest. In that brew, I find my best. The morning sun, a gentle caress, bathing the world in warmth no less. A symphony of flavors in every pore, awakening senses, a ritual to adore. The kitchen hums a quiet tune as dreams unfold not too soon. Pouring the elixir, stories take flight. In the world of coffee, my spirit aligns. A mug cradled, a vessel of tales. Each sip, a dialogue as morning unveils. Bitterness, a new world of tales. As the day unfolds, a caffeinated tale in morning symphony, where moments prevail. Coffee, my companion in the sunrise quest, in the ritual of morning, my eternal zest. The world awakens, a canvas so bright, in the palette of dawn, a captivating sight. A dance of flavors, a morning trance. In the world of coffee, life's sweet romance.